Cristiano, se calhar já podemos aceitar as pessoas.
We're live.
Muito bem, muito boa tarde a todos e bem-vindos ao primeiro webinar da Upstream Innovation Week, promovido pelo Pacto Português para os Plásticos. Antes de começar, explico o formato da organização da sessão de hoje. A sessão é composta por uma apresentação do orador, que é seguida de um período de perguntas e respostas. Na parte de perguntas e respostas, os participantes poderão colocar as questões ao orador, por escrito, utilizando a funcionalidade bate-papo ou oralmente, solicitando a permissão para participar através da função levantar a mão. Os vossos microfones encontram-se desativados. Iremos ativar os microfones dos participantes que pretendam colocar questões no período de perguntas e respostas. A sessão de hoje será em inglês. No passado mês de novembro, a Fundação MacArthur publicou o guia Upstream Innovation, a Guide to Packaging Solutions, tendo como objetivo ser um documento de referência para ajudar as organizações a inovarem, com vista a atingirem as suas metas de circularidade de embalagens. Repleto de casos de inovação upstream, assim como estruturas de apoio à tomada de decisão, o guia Upstream Innovation foi concebido para profissionais de marketing, designers de produto e engenheiros de embalagens com ou sem experiência no assunto da circularidade. Inspirados pelos casos deste guia e pela sua abordagem à inovação, a inovação upstream, o Pacto Português para os Plásticos promove durante esta semana a Upstream Innovation Week, onde daremos a conhecer aos membros desta iniciativa e ao público em geral este guia de forma mais aprofundada, através de uma série de webinars com apresentações e diálogo com representantes da Fundação MacArthur e de 3 empresas inovadoras, a Mori, a Loop e a Vegware. Na sessão de hoje, intitulada Upstream Innovation, The Mindset, contamos com a especialista da Fundação MacArthur, Josephine Christoffersen, para apresentar os detalhes do guia Upstream Innovation. Depois da sessão de hoje, ficaremos a saber como poderemos aproveitar o poder da inovação upstream para solucionar, na raiz, o problema do lixo e poluição de plásticos. Josephine, thank you very much for being present today and for accepting our invitation. And I'll hand over to you for your presentation.
Thank you very much, Pedro. And hello, everyone. My name is Josephine, and I work as a research analyst at the MacArthur Foundation for the New Plastics Economy Initiative. More specifically, I work within the innovation team, and I'm very excited to be with you here today to kick off your Upstream Innovation Week and introduce you to the content of the Upstream Innovation Guide, as well as to give you information about how you can get started with upstream innovation. And I'd like to begin my session here with showing you a clip from a presentation that my colleague Lila, who's also going to be on the call with us today, did at an online network session just a couple of weeks ago, where she presented the guide's content. I think showing you this clip will really set the scene for embarking on the rest of the session together. So bear with me for just a moment while I deal with the technicalities and share you the screen with the video.
Preventing waste by design starts with shifting our mindset. For packaging, this means shifting from thinking about how to deal with the pile of waste to thinking about how to prevent the pile of waste from ever existing in the first place. Essentially, shift from downstream to upstream. Look for ways to deliver value and products to users without creating waste. Dare to rethink the packaging, the product, and the business model. What I'm describing is the Upstream Innovation mindset, and it's what the Upstream Innovation Guide is all about. In a moment, I'll be taking you through how the guide can support you on your upstream innovation journey. But first, let's have a quick look at the guide in action and see what applying the mindset looks like for elimination through a short movie.
We should deal with a problem before it becomes a problem. And one way to do so is by eliminating what we don't need. See this plastic tear-off? Who needs that? Nestle didn't. Bam! 240 tonnes of plastic saved. And what about these multi-packs? So much plastic! Eliminate it. How many tonnes did that save last year, Tesco? good stuff. Oof. Look, you can't always take away the packaging, but you can change the product. That saved many bathtubs of water. And, of course, the packaging. Thanks, Lush. Just be smart about it. Cucumbers need plastic to stay fresh, right? Wrong. You know what's really cool? Spray them with an edible spray instead. That could save this much plastic in the US. And who needs water bottles when you can have water blobs? Look, so blobby. And how about six-packs that are simply held together with magic? Okay, and some glue. So if you're looking for packaging solutions, read this guide.
What the video made clear is it's not just me saying it. Once you adopt the Upstream Innovation mindset, possibilities start to appear. And the Upstream Innovation Guide is your one-stop shop for upstream innovation inspiration, with over 100 case studies profiled, including the one that's appearing on your screen now. And yes, it's the same cucumber that you just saw in the movie, and yes, it's the same cucumber that I keep talking about, but I'm not ready to stop talking about it just yet. Today's purpose is to show that for all of the case studies, you can either stay at the level of looking for excitement, cool images, and that spark of inspiration, or you can delve into the details on business benefits, environmental benefits, and innovation status. And for some of the case studies, get deep dive insights from ongoing pilots. All of the content is organized under easy to navigate tags and written in really clear, easy to understand language, so it can be accessible to anyone in your organization. Continuing on the theme of structure and moving to the next slide, all of the information in the guide is organized around the 3 circular economy strategies for packaging of elimination, reuse, and material circulation. For each of these, we provide a logical framework that can help you to structure thinking. The 2 approaches for elimination, the 4 business models for reuse, and the 3 strategies for material circulation. We've seen what the mindset looks like for elimination. Now let's have a quick look at what the mindset looks like for reuse.
If you want to get rid of packaging waste, don't let packaging become waste. Reuse it. You can reuse this bottle to make your own cleaning product, like that. And how many plastic bottles did that save, Everdrop? Nice. And don't buy single-use bottles with bubbly water if you can add bubbles to your tap water. That saved 6 billion single-use bottles. Right, SodaStream? Another great way to reuse is to refill. Great for cat food or coffee, but don't mix. Hey, and why not reuse on the go? You order the spiced pumpkin latte, Cup Club takes care of the cleaning, potentially saving this many cups in the UK every year. And should all these single-use bottles be different, or can they share one reusable design? How many single-use bottles have you saved, Coke? Wow, and that's just in Latin America. So if you're looking for packaging solutions, read this guide.
So we now have the Upstream Innovation mindset in place. We've got the frameworks for elimination, reuse, and material circulation, and we've got 100 case examples. But you might still be asking, how do I actually get started? Getting innovation off the pages of the PDF and into the real world is also our main interest. So we provide our perspective in the guide. For each of the frameworks, we provide guidance on where to start and what good looks like. We take you through the key ingredients for successful upstream innovation, telling the stories of those who have done it. And we provide a tool to help you navigate all the different upstream innovation options and decide which one would be right for you. And everything I've just mentioned, that's actually just the PDF. So we finished the PDF, and then our digital team told us that no one reads PDFs anymore. So online, you'll find an upstream innovation universe. And seriously, before entering the universe, I suggest you tell your family they're not going to see you for 4 days. In the universe, we've got an interactive summary of the guide, a searchable innovation database, ready-to-run workshop tools, the guide in 5 languages, and of course, the handy videos. And with that, let's have a look at the last video and how the upstream innovation mindset can be applied to keep materials in circulation.
Okay, what do we mean by material circulation? Well, if eliminating the packaging doesn't work, and reusing things doesn't work, then at least the materials should stay at work. The thing is, a lot of stuff isn't made to be remade. So, we have to go back to the start. Take recycling, for example. If we mix materials, it's hard to take them apart and even harder to recycle. So when we start to design a product or packaging, maybe we shouldn't do it from many materials, but from a single material and a single colour, or no colour, giving it the best chance of getting recycled. And it doesn't stop there. We need a system too, a system for collecting, sorting, and in this case, recycling. So if you're looking...
All right, so I hope that you're all able to see this and hear it properly, and that you have now become even more intrigued about what upstream innovation is. So I'll go over to my slides this time, and we can continue on this session. So hopefully you can see my slideshow now. And as we just heard from Leela, upstream innovation is really about designing out waste from the very beginning by rethinking the products and the services at the design stage. For example, this can include developing new materials, new product designs, or new business models. Whereas downstream innovation deals with a product or material after its first use. So for example, this can include developing new collection, new sorting, or recycling technologies. And of course, both upstream and downstream efforts are needed to achieve a circular economy for plastic packaging. But today's presentation and the rest of your week is going to be all about creating solutions upstream. And really, upstream innovation is also about a lot more than tackling plastic pollution, because upstream innovation is also a means for you to provide the solutions that customers they want and are asking for. It's a means for you to capture untapped business opportunities, to reduce carbon emissions, and to get ahead of a changing regulation scene. And of course, it's also a means for you to join the new normal. So Leela introduced us to the mindset of upstream innovation just before in the video. But I would really like to just very briefly recap for you that the upstream innovation mindset is all about rethinking not just the packaging, but also rethinking the product and the business model. And this could involve the different aspects that you can see here on the screen. So when we start to apply this mindset, we can achieve 3 key circular economy strategies, which were the ones that we were introduced to in the 3 magician videos in Leela's presentation. So these are elimination, reuse, and material circulation. And I'd like to spend a few minutes now kind of diving into these strategies, along with some best practice examples of how these different strategies can actually work and look like in practice. Sorry. So as we see here, elimination, there's 2 approaches to achieving elimination. There's direct elimination, which means that packaging that does not serve an essential function can be regarded as unnecessary and directly removed without any significant adjustments or innovation efforts or loss of product value. And then we have innovative elimination, which means that a packaging does serve an essential function, but you can indirectly eliminate it through innovation, with that function being achieved in a different way. So let's take a look, or a more practical look at what these 2 approaches can look like. So as we heard in the video, Tesco is a really great example of what direct elimination can look like. So they decided to remove the plastic wrapping on their multi-buy tins. And of course, they realized that these multi-pack films just weren't really serving an essential function, because the multi-buy deal itself was still applied and was just carried out during the checkout. So doing this allowed Tesco to really eliminate 67 million pieces of plastic film per year, which is the equivalent to 350 tons. So a very minor change achieving a really great result. Innovative elimination, however, is all about indirectly eliminating packaging that serves an essential function through innovation. So for Lush, this meant that rethinking the product itself could allow them to redesign personal care products that are normally sold as concentrated, as liquids, that they could redesign them into concentrated solid formulations. And through this, Lush eliminated the need for packaging altogether. And since 2007, this has allowed them to eliminate over 90 million plastic shampoo bottles. And I think what's even more interesting about this Lush example is that they're also a great example of how you can utilize digital technology to overcome a typical hurdle that's created when you eliminate the packaging altogether, which is, of course, that then you have no physical packaging to label on or to communicate and brand on. But through product recognition technology, the Lush Lens app can actually be used by customers to access interactive content about the specific products that they're browsing at the store, and they can get all the information they need about the products through this technology. So I think that's a really clever example of overcoming a hurdle like this. The second strategy is reuse, and it's one that I think maybe some or most of you are already fairly familiar with. So as you might know, there are 4 different business to consumer reuse models. And these models, they differ depending on the ownership of the packaging, such as whether the packaging is refilled or returned, and of course, whether refill or the return occurs. And I'd like to highlight just one example representing one of these models, but of course, when you dive into the guide itself, you can find loads more examples from each of these different models. So the example I want to highlight was also briefly mentioned in the video before, and it's the universal bottle from the Coca-Cola company in Latin America. I think this is a really great example of how standardizing the packaging itself can truly optimize operation. So in this model here, customers, they pay an indirect deposit when they purchase the reusable bottle, and then once they return it to the retailer after use, the retailer give it back to Coca-Cola, and Coca-Cola is then in charge of washing, relabeling, and refilling. And then these refill bottles, they go back out to the retailers again. So switching to this model, this reusable PET bottle across the Coca-Cola brands in Latin America have actually enabled the company to avoid the production of these 1.8 billion single-use bottles per year. But of course, reuse can also occur in a business-to-business setting. And this could be anything from an individual company reusing their own transport packaging to an industry-wide system that use standardized reusable packaging. So the Swedish return system is a great example of this. The Swedish return system is an industry-led collaboration that's based on a shared system of reusable crates and pallets between wholesalers and retailers. And in this model, these customers, they pay a user fee and a deposit for the use of these crates and pallets. And then the Swedish return system itself actually manages the whole take-back infrastructure, the quality control, the washing of the packaging, and the redistribution of the packaging. And surprisingly, this system has actually been in place since 1997, and today has over 1,500 businesses in Sweden that are using the system, which means that 50% of all the fresh produce that's delivered in Sweden is delivered in these reusable crates. So a really great example also of how collaboration between businesses can make reuse work at scale. The third strategy that was also mentioned in the video is material circulation. So as we heard, when packaging can no longer serve its function, the material should of course be circulated through a recycling or composting route. And this kind of process, of course, involves numerous downstream elements, such as the collecting and sorting infrastructure that I mentioned earlier. But actually, upstream innovation is really key to ensure that both the technical and the practical and the economic parts of this system can work smoothly. So for this strategy, there are 3 kind of main routes or approaches to consider. One is choosing a plastic type, for example, PET, and a packaging design that can be circulated through a recycling route. which ensures then the plastic packaging is broken down mechanically or chemically, and the resulting materials are then used to make new products. Secondly, you have choosing a plastic type and a packaging design that can be circulated through a composting route, which means, of course, that the compostable plastic packaging is then decomposed in a home or an industrial composting facility. And lastly, there's choosing to substitute to a different non-plastic materials such as paper or aluminium, and then making sure, of course, to design that material for recycling or composting as well, so that it continues to circulate in the system. Now, rethinking the product itself can have different outcomes. Before, in the Lush case, we saw that rethinking the product allowed for the company to completely eliminate the need for packaging. But rethinking the product can also allow for recyclable packaging to be used. So nut milk is usually sold in these kind of multi-carton, multi-material packaging cartons. But by reformulating the liquid product into a paste product, this company, Joy here, was able to switch its packaging to a monomaterial recyclable tub. And the tubs then also allow for many, many more servings per container, which overall means that the amount of packaging that's needed is actually reduced. So a great example of how rethinking the product can lead to different outcomes. Now, I hope that I've managed to get you excited about upstream innovation, the mindset and the different circular economy strategies that you can apply to make it happen, because now it's time that we take action. So as we heard from Leela earlier, the Upstream Innovation Guide itself not only includes information about the mindset, the strategies, and over 100 case studies like the ones we've just gone through now. The guide actually also has a whole section on how you as a business or an organization can make upstream innovation happen. And a key place to start in this journey is to make sure that you are setting yourself up for success from the very beginning. So important to note maybe is that none of the upstream innovation examples that you've just seen in the video now, that I've just presented and that you'll read about in the guide, they haven't followed exactly the same process of ideation and development and implementation. It's important to remember, I think, that when you embark on an upstream innovation journey, innovation can be messy, it can be unpredictable, but this is exactly why a sufficient and a sustained support system is absolutely crucial for success. And this is what these 5 key ingredients can help you to set up. So across the many cases that we featured in the guide, common traits can be identified that have contributed to their successful innovation journey. And in the guide, you'll also find, like Leela mentioned, that we kind of zoom in on 4 specific cases that really illustrate how the existence of all or some of these 5 key ingredients have actually been crucial and supported their individual successful innovation journeys in practice. So I highly recommend that you read through these quite inspiring stories. So let's go through the different ingredients. Now, one ingredient is about setting company-wide vision and targets. And internal communication and education about your company's long-term vision, as well as translating any targets that are set at CEO level into tangible key performance indicators, can really enable the right conditions for upstream innovation within an organization. So for Tesco, for example, having a CEO-led company-wide vision and a quantitative target were actually the key ingredients in their plastic packaging strategy. Another key ingredient is fostering a culture of entrepreneurship by, for example, allocating time for employees to work on projects of their personal interest, or hosting development programs or competitions that can support idea generation. These are all ways of supporting upstream innovation within your business and can really help you to, for example, reach new markets or create better products. So a great example of how to practically do this is from Nestlé, who developed an internal innovation platform to foster an entrepreneurial culture for upstream innovation. And having this platform actually led to more than 62,000 employees creating 6,400 new ideas. Now, in some cases, bringing in complementary assets, resources, skills, and expertise, when required at least, by, for example, establishing partnerships with startups or hiring in consultancies can really be an important way for you to succeed in upstream innovation. And this is actually exactly what Coca-Cola did when they partnered with NGOs and process consultants during the innovation journey of their universal bottle that we just talked about earlier, so that they could continue to get important input and feedback. A fourth key ingredient is about breaking the organizational silos that often exist within businesses. So, for example, by setting up a core team of internal champions coming from different teams or different business units within your organization, this can really help secure not just a business-wide buy-in, but also help you to capture and share learnings across teams and across departments. And again, drawing on Coca-Cola's universal bottle innovation journey, they set up a cross-functional team formed across markets to really try and get that sharing of learnings going. And it proved for them to be an absolute key to success in terms of getting a fast company-wide buy-in for this universal bottle idea. And finally, maybe one of the most important key ingredients is that a well-funded process with room to fail and patience for return on investments provides exactly the type of setting and system needed to support a truly transformative innovation process. So for Nestlé, they established a sustainable venture fund with 250 million Swiss franc to invest in solutions, particularly for circular economy. And this has proved to them to be a really good way forward to ensure that there's always enough patience, so to speak, for innovation to be able to carry out. So that was the 5 key ingredients that can help set you up for success. But I'm also aware that when you read through this guide, a lot of different solutions are just thrown at you. And you're probably left at the end of it with questions similar to those that you can see on the screen now, and ultimately thinking, this is all amazing, but how do I actually choose between them? Where do I even begin? So this is what this next part is all about. So these 3 steps can really help to give you a structure on your process and evaluate different types of upstream solutions from a broader systems perspective, and help you ultimately answer questions like the ones that were on the screen before. So the first step is all about defining what it is you're trying to achieve with a particular packaging item, and what functions is it that you would like an alternative solution to be able to provide. So in this step, it's good to be as specific as possible when it comes to identifying the limiting factors such as geographical location, time frame, etc. And through this process, you might arrive at broader exploratory questions such as, how can we best deliver small quantities of personal care products in Southeast Asia? Or you might arrive at more narrow and defined questions such as, which specific material should we use for delivering home care refill tablets in Brazil now and in 10 years' time? But each of these questions hint at what functions it is you want your packaging solution to be able to achieve. So step 2 then is all about identifying the possible solutions and identifying what set of solutions that could provide the defined functions that are needed. And for each of the questions that you have then identified in step 1, this step is about writing down a corresponding set of solutions that you would then be happy to explore further in response to these questions. And this could be 2 solutions, it could be 5, it could be maybe even more than that. The final step then is a matter of evaluating these identified potential solutions through their pros, their cons, and their trade-offs by considering them in a wider system context. And to really be able to do this, you need to look at the identified solutions throughout their entire life. So this is about thinking of them in their before use stage, such as questioning to what extent production processes for this solution can be designed to not emit pollutants. You need to think about the solutions in their in-use stage, which could entail questioning what benefits the solution might provide to your business based on its setup and its design. And then it's, of course, about thinking about the solutions in their after-use stage, which could be, for example, by questioning what is the likelihood of the material or the packaging escaping out of our human-made systems and into the natural environment. So although the questions that you'll find in this table here are of course not exhaustive or comprehensive, but it is really meant as a list and a tool for you to guide you on how to consider both the technical, the economic, the environmental, and the social factors of a solution during these 3 life stages. And I'm aware that some of these steps may be way too detailed for you to just dive straight into in your specific business or organization. I know that you're probably sitting there thinking, hold on, this is great, it's amazing, but first of all, I need to get my business, my department, my team aware about upstream innovation, and I need to get them on board. So luckily, that's exactly why we also created an asset pack that's free for you to use to do exactly this, to get your relevant teams, your relevant departments, colleagues, whatever it may be, excited about and supportive of kickstarting an upstream innovation process in your business organization. So what I'd like to do now is I'd like to give you a tour of these assets in the online upstream innovation universe that Leela also referred to in the video in the beginning of this session. And if you just bear with me for a moment, I will take you to this universe. So hopefully you can still see it now. And once you enter the Upstream Innovation website, you will find an interactive summary of the content from the guide. And if you hit resources here, you'll be taken down to the bottom of the page where you can then find a wealth of resources. And unfortunately, we don't have time to dive into all of these today. So I'd like to focus on just showing you the case database and the workshop toolkit. So let's take a look at the case database first. Now, I've just pre-downloaded it for us here so we don't have to wait for my internet to get it up. But the case database looks like this when you open it. And this is where you can find all the cases that are profiled in the guide itself. And it's being regularly updated as innovators, they can submit an example up here. So it's really kind of a living database. And the database, it gives you several different filtering options. So for example, you can choose that you're mostly interested in product types relating to fresh food, and you're also mostly interested in cases that occur within the Northern American region. So here you have all the relevant cases. And when you click on one of these tiles here, you'll then see it open up and you can find lots of information about that specific case, including information about business benefits, environmental benefits, and innovation status. So this database is really meant as a tool for you to find inspiration and details on specific cases that are relevant to you. So let's go back to the resource overview on the online Upstream Innovation universe. So as I mentioned, we've created this workshop toolkit, and this is to really help you kickstart your upstream innovation process. And we've used the software called Miro, which is freely accessible to create a virtual workshop whiteboard. And before we jump into the Miro board itself, I would like to just show you what you can find under supporting materials here. So once you click this link, you'll be sent into this page where you can find a facilitator's guide. And in this facilitator's guide, you can find all the information you need about how to plan and run this workshop. So you'll find information about how to download and open the Miro board, selecting the right group of participants to join you in a workshop, how to run the exercises, and much more. And you'll also find some presenter notes over here that you can use to do a quick introduction to upstream innovation to really kick off your upstream innovation workshop. So now I think we should jump into the Miro board itself. And it looks like this. So as I mentioned, you can really think about this as a massive online whiteboard. And up here, you'll have a getting started frame. And in this frame, you will find kind of the basic information that you need about how you can make Post-it notes and all these basic skills to really help you and your participant have a nice process here in the workshop. So after that, you can use the Miro to do an introduction presentation to upstream innovation. And as you can see, these are basically the kind of slides that I use in my presentation today and that I would use if I were to go out and do a presentation about this somewhere. And in these slides, you can find information about what upstream innovation is, why you should be exploring it, and of course, explanations about the 3 different circular economy strategies for packaging. And along with this, you'll also find slides that include information about the different approaches, such as this one for reuse, complemented with specific examples. And if you think, this example is not really one that's going to resonate with my particular audience, then you can always go to the case study library over here, and you can basically drag in any case that you think will resonate the best with your specific audience. So once you have everyone in the workshop up to speed on what upstream innovation is, why you should be exploring it, and how you should be exploring it, then the Miro board has several exercises for you to dive into to really help you get started with an upstream innovation process. So for example, it can guide you and your team to discuss the essential functionalities of a current single-use packaging as really a stepping stone to evaluate what is necessary and reimagine these 3 aspects of the mindset, so the product, the packaging, and the business model. You'll also find that for the 3 different circular economy strategies, we've created these strategy cards that look something like this. So this one is for how to make refill on the go work with smart dispensers. And the idea is that you make these how might we questions that could look something like this. And then you drag down the strategy cards to help steer the brainstorm in the right direction. And of course, the how might we questions are written so that they're most relevant to your specific context. And just to show you what this can look like after such an activity, you can see here that people will hopefully generate lots of ideas, maybe some questions for you to explore further, and you'll end up with lots of post-its on this activity. And this kind of activity can be carried out with different how might we questions, different strategy cards, and you can do it for all of the 3 different circular economy strategies. I think, however, that I would advise that you maybe focus on 1, maximum 2 circular economy strategies in one workshop, just to get the most out of the session. And finally then, the workshop is also designed to help you vote on ideas and to really narrow down on the most exciting ones. So if everything goes well, hopefully you will leave this online workshop space with a lot of excitement for upstream innovation and a list of 3 particularly exciting initiatives and some clear next steps identified to continue your journey of bringing these ideas to life. So this was a quick introduction to the upstream innovation online universe. And I really hope that that has gotten you inspired to go back to your specific organization or business and try and have a go at this workshop. We really hope that it will be useful for you to kickstart that process and just to really kickstart that ideation about upstream innovation. So finally, I just wanted to say thank you so much. I hope that you will have an amazing rest of the week diving into upstream innovation. And now I know that we have 10 to 15 minutes of Q&A altogether.
Thank you so much, Josephine, for this great and insightful presentation. I'll open now the Q&A session. If anyone has any question, please feel free to ask in the chat or by raising your hands. I'll switch to Portuguese. Se alguém tiver alguma questão, por favor, que coloque no bate-papo ou através da funcionalidade levantar a mão, por favor, esteja à vontade. With that said, I just have a small question. What main advice can you give to the Portuguese Plastic Pact members to achieve the upstream innovation?
Yeah, I think I would really highlight actually what I ended this presentation with, which is to please use these assets. I mean, we've of course put in a lot of effort to try and make this guide as approachable and as useful for you guys as possible. So really, I think the absolute key thing to do to kickstart upstream innovation is to go and do a presentation for the relevant departments or teams or colleagues that you have and try and set up a workshop, because this is really just, I mean, it's new to many people. So it's really also just to get the understanding and the ideation going around upstream innovation. I think that's a really key first step for all of you.
So to start talking about the area and the theme. Thank you so much. If anyone has any question, please feel free. we'll just wait a few moments.
Of course.
And if you want to talk and don't find the raise hand option, please put it on the chat.
I just jump in for a quick question too. We saw a few examples of innovative elimination, reuse business models. Many of them sometimes are not possible due to regulation or legal context of some countries or some regions. So what is your advice in terms of approaching governments in order to create the conditions to enhance upstream innovation?
So I think, of course, as you say, these solutions are going to vary greatly depending on what geographic region you're in and specific localities. And I think that one of the key things to do is to go through these processes of understanding which type of solutions might be most appropriate for the scene that I'm in or the setting that I'm in. And then try and take it from there as a beginning, at least, to understand how you can act within that setting. And of course, I mean, approaching government and trying to push for regulations that can enable these kinds of solutions to occur is absolutely key. I don't know, Lila, if you have anything to add, maybe from your experience with talking to innovators, but I think that's kind of a first step at least. And of course, I recognize that there are limitations in terms of regulations for a lot of these solutions.
Thank you. We just have here a person who wants to talk, Guilherme.
Just letting Lila, because you could not.
Yeah. Thanks.
Sorry.
Hi everyone as well. You met me in the video earlier. So from my experience, either we work on the innovation side, not so much the government engagement side, so don't have specific steps there. But I would say that's something that you should discuss as a pact, and that's part of the role of the pact, is that you can collectively, I guess, understand what sort of solutions you think are useful to your industry, and then take that as a collective to government and have a sort of a one voice on it. So yeah, that would be my advice, discuss as a pact. Also just want to highlight, with a lot of the examples that we're giving, there actually are a lot of low-hanging fruit examples, like just the really easy ones to implement. They might be different ones from geography to geography, so you absolutely don't need to look at what we've profiled in the US and think that should be the easy one for you, but it's identifying what the first easiest things to move on in your geography are. And that's what Josephine was starting to say as well.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. We have one question here. Please, Guilherme, I think you can speak now.
Okay. Can you hear me? I think, okay. Thank you, Josephine, for your presentation. It was very interesting. However, I have been thinking about the financial structure of material circularity. And what I find very hard on the plastic level is that when you go for a material, for a product for each material, you are actually losing value. So it's very hard to find a system or a financial architecture where you don't lose value on the process. Because you start with a can and you go for aluminium, you are losing the value that was inputted in that system. So can you comment on that or give us some examples where you don't lose value on when you are circulating the materials?
Yes, I think I might ask my colleague Lila again to step in, because she's definitely more of an expert on the material circulation aspect than I am. If you, Lila, have a good reply to this question in terms of a good case study for this.
So actually, I guess first picking up, that's where it really is important to work through the whole upstream innovation process. As I was saying, first, these low-hanging fruit, identifying where you don't need packaging or material, so it doesn't serve a necessary function. That's actually an immediate value win. All of the examples we've got there was an immediate financial benefit, because you've actually just removed a material that you didn't, you you weren't needing to spend the money there. Then looking at something like reuse, and again, that's where some of the financials of reuse actually start to come into play, because you can now invest into the packaging, but you're actually bringing the packaging back into a system through the reuse model. So you're retaining the value of the packaging. And that's actually one of the benefits it has versus just going for material circulation and a recycling system, where absolutely you're putting money into a packaging and you get a very low quality product out the end a lot of the time. And then once you go into material circulation, again, this is where having that upstream mindset. So I'm actually going to pull on the Coca-Cola example, their Sprite moving from green to clear. So that's a very simple change, but you actually improve the value of that recyclate by 35% compared to having a green can. So Coca-Cola, for a lot of their Sprite cans, both in Southeast Asia as well as North America, and it's coming in Europe, are transitioning from green colored PET to clear PET. You suddenly have you improve the value of that material at its end of life by 35% simply by changing the color. So this is where that upstream innovation mindset comes in of absolutely how do we retain value, and what are some of those simple changes that allow the material at end of life to have value, and even better, the packaging at end of life to have value by having it in a reuse system.
Yeah, because somehow you will end up with systems that have higher or lower degree, but you always end up with some losses in value. You cannot retain all the value, and the plastic is particularly challenging in retaining value. Thank you for your comment on that.
And I'll also comment, absolutely, we're not saying you can retain 100% of value, but you're retaining a lot more value than you do in a linear system as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We have another question. I'll read it. How is the living database maintained? Is there an underlying process of validation of new entries? This is for the examples, I believe, of the database.
Yeah. So we really encourage anyone who, have great examples and know of others that might have great example, and nudge them to submit these. Of course, they kind of go through some reviewing stages before they can be featured on the database itself, which you'll also see when you fill in the form. So when you click on the submit an example button that I highlighted during the presentation, you'll be sent onto a Google form where you have to put in some information, answer a few questions about the innovation to really help kind of highlight some specific aspects. So yes, there is kind of a formal reviewing process to that, of course, yeah. But really encourage everyone to submit an example, because we really want this to be kind of, as I said, a living database where you can continue to find up-to-date and exciting innovations happening in this space.
So anyone can put an example in the database and you see and validate. Okay, thank you. We just have time for one last question. I'll read it for you. Regarding the multi-pack beer, the substitution of the plastic film for glue, isn't the glue more harmful for the recycling streams?
It's a good question, and we asked ourselves that as well when we were looking at it. So as we understand, the glue can fit into the recycling stream, but we also still think that's an ongoing innovation opportunity. So we highlighted it for the concept and this idea of thinking differently, but absolutely still an innovation opportunity to make sure that that then fully fits into whatever system you need it to fit into. But yeah, good question. We asked ourselves that. We do understand it can fit into a recycling system.
Thank you so much, Lila. Thank you so much, Josephine and Lila, for this presentation and the answers. It was great. Thank you again. Switching to Portuguese. Muito obrigada a todos pela vossa presença na primeira sessão da Upstream Innovation de hoje. Amanhã teremos a segunda sessão designada Innovative Elimination, onde teremos a Mori para nos dar um exemplo sobre a inovação na fonte. Muito obrigada a todos e vemo-nos amanhã.
Obrigado a todos. Thank you so much, Josephine and Lila.
Thank you so much for having us.